right. Okay. Here we go. All right. So I'm just going to play this a little bit here while we wait for some people to come on. And we're going to talk a little bit about phrasing on the guitar. And this is no matter what style you're playing, you always want to phrase well. You don't want to play just a bunch of notes, right? So I'm going to play a little bit here and wait for some people to come on. All right. So let's talk about phrasing a little bit. Now, what I want to do. Oh, let's see here. Oh, vocal. Hold on 1 second. Let me fix this. All right. Let's try this vocal now. See if this sounds any better. All right, cool. And the vocal's better as well. That's good. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So let's talk about phrasing. So the one thing that you do not want to do when you're phrasing is just play a bunch of notes. Okay. It's like as if you're reading notes off of a paper. You know, the music's not on the paper. The music is in your fingers, right? That's the big thing. It's like when you're reading a paragraph or something out of a book, you're not just reading it like a robot. You're putting inflection, you're putting tone, you're putting attitude, and it's a language, right? So you are going to create an emotion behind those words, and you're going to make it mean something. So same way as if you're reading notes off paper, you're not just going to read those notes just as notes. You're going to make those notes mean something and give those notes some weight and make sure that they emote a certain type of vibe, right? So that's what you want to do when you play. So in other words, I'm not going to play a bunch of notes like this. So that's just a bunch of notes. If I was reading that across on a piece of paper, without putting any type of emotion behind it. But now I'm going to phrase a little bit here. I'll talk about what I'm doing on a very basic level. I'm just going to play dynamically. Okay, so it might be something like this now. All right, so now I'm still playing a bunch of notes. Not saying too much here yet, but I'm playing a bunch of notes, but I'm adding more weight to some, I'm accenting some, and I'm playing softer, and I'm playing louder. Now, if I use a pick, I can get a slightly different sound. So that's going to sound a little bit different as well. Now I want to go over a couple little exercises that you can do. Okay, so if you're not used to playing dynamically, this will be kind of the first part of this. I want to show you some exercises you can do to get yourself playing dynamically, because a lot of that is having control over your pick or over your fingers, whatever you like to play with, or if you like to play with both. All right, so the first thing is you want to be able to play through a scale. I'm just going to pick a minor pentatonic scale here. I want to pick something that everybody knows and is comfortable with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start as soft as I possibly can. And by the time I'm done the scale, I'm going to be playing as loud as I can, while still maintaining a good tone as well. Okay, so I'm going to start almost inaudible as I do this. Here we go. And then the other way. All right, so that's controlling my dynamics as I crescendo and diminuendo through the scale. And now what I can do is I can also do a balloon effect where I get louder in the middle and then softer. So I can do that also. Now I'm really controlling my dynamics, and I'm making sure I have control with my pick. And I'm just doing that by striking harder and putting a little bit more pressure on the string. Now, one other thing here, if you're not used to doing this, what's going to happen is as you get louder, you might get faster. Okay. And as you get softer, you might slow down. So you want to try to control that. You might want to just play with either a metronome or with a drum track, or with just a backing track off of YouTube. I'm an A minor here, so maybe find an A minor backing track, and then it'll be more musical sounding and more fun. And then crescendo, and then decrescendo as you go through this, and make sure you don't speed up or slow down. Of course, when you're playing it with a backing track, that'll help you lock that in. If you do it without it, you might get faster, you might slow down. And that's what you don't want to do. Okay, you don't want to push the tempo. Okay, so that's one thing you can do for your dynamics. The other thing you can do is do more chords with this as well. Okay, so chords are not out of the equation here. Whenever you're soloing, you want to be the loudest instrument in the band at that time. Now, when you're accompanying, you want to be just under the soloist, because the soloist needs to be heard. So you don't want to play too loud, but you still want to have some type of dynamics underneath, okay? Or else it'll get too stale and sterile, and the soloist is not going to have anything to hold on to or play off of. So you want to be interesting with that as well. So let's say if I'm doing something in A, and I'm doing this kind of a thing. Let's see here. Okay, so that's an idea of how you might manage a simple 12 bar blues, but I'm making sure first of all, if I'm playing something like that, so it's like kind of like a shuffle feel, right? I want to make sure that the the um the feel, the right hand doesn't stop. And in order to change textures up and things, I'm using different voicings. Okay, and what I'm doing at that point is I'm kind of treating the accompaniment as almost like a counter melody as to what's going on. So if I'm playing something like this, I want to always give the soloist something to play off of. Okay, this is getting into rhythm playing, but still phrasing, right? Still phrasing. So if I'm doing this kind of thing, I want to go. So and that way I'm playing still, I'm putting some shading in there and I'm creating these little lines and melodic ideas. And now the soloist is going to have something to grab onto as well. And you constantly need to be listening to the bass player, the drummer, if there's keys. You constantly want to be thinking about what can I add in. So I'm adding a piece to the puzzle, but I'm not stepping on toes. That's phrasing too. Listening, backing off, not getting in the bassist way. And making sure that you're adding something to the sound. Um, Sometimes by adding, you have to take away, right? So I'm not playing, I'm not going to play all that, right? But I will do something as simple as this. So I might do something like that. So thinking in textures, that's all going to go into your phrasing. It's going to help the guitarist, or I'm sorry, the soloist, whoever it is, it's going to help them phrase better because you're phrasing as well. And all of a sudden now you have this dialogue going back and forth, and that's a beautiful thing. Okay, back to phrasing on the soloing measure here. Another way to phrase is to pick. Let's say you're doing like a 16th note idea or an 8th note idea, and you're doing like a I don't know, maybe something like a something like that, right? You're doing this like long kind of phrase. Um, Maybe what you can try doing is phrase every 3 notes you're going to accent. So it's like a 3/4 type of a feel. This is pretty cool. Now, if you were to phrase every 4th note or so, it would just be kind of grounded. It doesn't sound too interesting, right? But if you do every 3rd note, now you're getting this 3/4 feel. So now you might do something more lines of like, let's see here. More of that kind of a feel, right? So third note. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's kind of cool too. So you accent at different parts of what you're playing. The other thing you can do is just play an idea and slide into the notes, right? Slide in notes that you wouldn't normally slide into. Interesting. So let's see. So something like that. Now, what I like to do is when I phrase, and I like to play a note, the same note, on a different string. Okay, so here's another idea that we can use to phrase now. So that's interesting too. If I play a note here, I'll play a note up there. And I'll play it there. But I'll play it a little softer. It's the same octave, but it's a darker texture because I'm playing on a thicker string, right? As I can play a note here and go G, A, G. And I can play it here. And I can play it here. And as I play it, it's brighter there, more mellow there. So if I want to play an idea like this now, I might go it's much brighter there than it is up here. So that's an interesting way that you can phrase too. Something else I want to go over is bending. All right, bending is very, very cool. Now, bending is like a whole other topic all to itself, right? There's all kinds of ways you can bend, but I'll show you just one thing that I like to do when it comes to phrasing, because this is probably one of the things I employ most out of all these techniques. Or I would say it's kind of the more to what I'm looking for. It's just more in your face, right? It's just a more in your face kind of sound. I'll show you what that is. Okay, so if I'm going to go to a note, maybe it's this one. It's the E, right? I'll do that instead. This is interesting because it's subtle but makes a big difference. If I play this E and apply vibrato, Okay, if I slow that down, in essence, and you probably already know where I'm going with this, what I'm doing when I pull the string, I'm stretching it, I'm going higher. So I'm going higher to lower. I'm going back to the original note again. That's what's happening. Now, if I bend to the note first and add vibrato to it, I'm doing this. I'm dipping below and coming up to the note. So this is if I had a whammy bar here, right? I'm kind of emulating what a whammy bar would do. Now, I'm not one to use a whammy bar because I don't want to depend on it for my style. Plus, if you put a whammy bar in my hand, I'm using it all night long and I won't get off of it. It's like a toy, you know? So I don't like to use it. In fact, on my Strat, I take it off. I have 2 Strats. I take them off. Um, I love guys that use it, like Scott Henderson, like Jeff Beck. Those are 2 guys that come to mind because they're so musical with the whammy bar. If you don't know those guys, check them out. If you're on here, you probably do know them. But yeah, those 2 guys are just incredible with the bar. And I've never been one to keep a bar in my hand, but I like to emulate it because if I do it with a bar and I go to another guitar, I don't have the bar, then I don't have that facet of my playing. And I always want to have that facet of my playing. Everything I do, I want to be able to do with my fingers. I don't want to rely on anything else. Even down to, volume pedals and wah pedals, I'll use my tone and my volume. While not quite as effective as having an undertow, that's okay. I'd rather get used to using it that way than get used to the pedal. And then if I don't have it, there goes part of my phrasing that I don't have that night. And I never want that. I want to have control over everything. Okay. So, when I use something like a T-style guitar, it's perfect. Tuning's always stable, and you can do these whammy bar type things and not worry about the guitar going out of tune. Now, I'm not talking about dive bombs or anything. You need a whammy bar for that, right? You need one, but to use it more like a Bigsby type of way, I think is really cool. So here we go. Now I'm going to hit this note, right? Much different sound than you can almost make it eerie sounding by just playing a little under pitch and then bringing it up and then under and bringing it up. You can really have some fun with that. Great for maybe ballads or something, right? But yeah, that's how I'll treat that. And then I'll do as if I was slipping notes with a bar, I'll slip the notes with the bend. So I might do this. I might do that. Or I might take this and go a little further with it and actually move up to another note for a little more realistic of an effect. So then I might say, all right, I'm going to play this D. And then when I really want that note, I'll. And there it is again. You have to be quick. So instead of, which is just as fine, but if I want to add that cool, unique, warbly type of vibrato, I'll do that. Now it involves getting to that bend very quickly and making sure that your intonation is as quickly as possible. And that's where the vibrato comes in. If you're a little under, it's okay. You can fix it with the vibrato, fix it in the mix, right? But you want to be as dead on as possible. So that means getting used to your string gauge, and making sure that you know exactly what that feels like, what the tension is like when you pull that string, when you stretch the string. Where is that whole step? Where is that half step? Or where is that 1.5 step at? so that you're more confident to know that you're going to hit that pitch, and you can add that vibrato, or you can do the note slip and you can slide. Okay, when you do that, it's very quick. Don't hesitate. Okay, so if I'm going to do this here again, so it sounds like I'm going here, and then I'm diving with the bar a little bit, and then coming up to the E, D to E, but I'm doing this instead to make it a little bit more effective. Now there, if I always want to go to the flat 7, let's say I'm on A, I'll go to the F sharp, and I'll bend just a half step. And that kind of thing. Now, if I combine all this with phrasing, with dynamics as I play, hammer-ons and pull-offs, which of course gives me a lighter touch, right? Pulling, sliding. I might play on one string. So all kinds of shading and hills and valleys and things going on with something like that. Okay. And just using notes of the minor pentatonic. Not talking about note choices tonight. That gets into playing through changes, things like that. Which, if you do want to go over stuff like that, I'll be doing much more of these. And playing through changes is a lot of fun, and we'll get into that. But this is just phrasing as far as textures about your right hand, your left hand, the physical attributes that you bring to the instrument in a real sensitive way, so that you can make something really sing. So those are just some of the ways that I do it, and I think some ways that you can become real effective with your phrasing is by maybe employing some of these things. Now, of course, what I'll do is I'll do one more thing for you as far as bending. 'Cause bending, I think, is so crucial when you're doing this and when you're talking about phrasing. I want to talk about an exercise that you can do to work on your intonation and get used to your string tension, so that you can build a muscle memory to know exactly how far to stretch the string to make sure that you are intonated, to make sure you're reaching the note you want. Okay. Because you're kind of flying blind when you do that. But if you're aware of the string tension and how much muscle, is needed in your forearm, then this is a great way to build up your toolbox for phrasing. So what I'll do, and I'll say, let's do, I don't know, let's do something like, where are we going to go? Well, let's go right here. Let's go right there, right? Now, here we go. I want to bend G to A. Now, what I'll do is I'm not going to push this up because I'm really close to the edge of the fingerboard here. Much harder to do. I'd rather pull the string down. Okay, but that's my A. Okay, now what I'll do is I want to bend to my C. So what I'll do is I'll just go from like a B to a C. Okay, then I go to my D here, but I'll go back to my C. So I'm playing C, D, but I'm really playing D, E because I'm stretching the string. So it's... Then I need G, A. So I go F sharp to the G. Then I go G to A. Now that was a little... What was that? A little sharp, right? So I gotta go... There it is. Here. there it is. Okay. Now you see. And what I did was I came back a whole step or a half step from the note that I wanted. I made sure that I just got right on that note. Now, if you can do this 9 times out of 10, you can start employing this into your improvisations. Because again, like I said, you can add vibrato to kind of smooth that over and make that sound really, really good. But you just need to spend a little bit of time with that, and you can start to do some really cool things. So just a little bit about how I phrase, and hopefully that helps you guys out there. So I'll open up to just a little bit of Q&A if anybody has any questions at all on any of this stuff. I'll just play a little bit and see if you guys have any questions. Okay. All right, guys. We'll end there. And anything else that you'd like to ask or anything, throw me a message, and I'll do this again next week at some point as well. Spread the word. Let people know that I'm on here. And if you haven't subscribed, do so. I see some people hit the like button already. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And absolutely spread the word. Get your friends on here as well. I'll see what I want to do for the for next video. If you have ideas, anything you want me to go over and cover for next video, let me know. And I'll see if I can make it happen for you. Okay. Until then, guys, thank you so much for showing up and happy playing.